Really, really good to be able to play some lineups tonight with some kids that don't traditionally play together. A chance to see what could possibly look like in case we face COVID later in the year. After a slow start, felt like we've found the best shot pretty much every trip down the floor except for just a handful. And to play at that pace and only turn it over 5 times, really good attention to detail, not looking at the scoreboard, not playing your opponent, but playing yourselves in an atmosphere. No overlooking them with what is ahead of us on the weekend. Focus was very, very good. And again, we learned a lot about, how to prepare ourselves for a game in this COVID era of no shoot arounds and not your normal pregame warm-ups. But I do think that still becomes part of our slow start. So we're going to keep tweaking some of that stuff.
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, just how you guys were – Michaela said you guys got the shots you wanted early in the game. They just weren't falling, but then they started falling. You took the shots, and they played the selfish basketball like you wanted them to play.
Yeah, and good, better, best is kind of something we worked on in film. And I thought we got the best shot we could have possibly gotten on every one of those first few possessions. They were the right people. They were in rhythm, just didn't go down. And I think it has a lot to do with how we're warming up, and how we prepare on day of games. So we just got to settle into that and get used to it. But I would take those same shots. And there was no panic in those guys. They all came over and said, keep shooting those same ones. They'll start falling. We drove it in there. I didn't necessarily like the 4 straight threes. I would have liked to have seen one of them say, hey, you know what, we need to try to drive it in there and see if we can get a foul. But that's something we can always be picky on in a game that's a blowout win.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, just kind of start with that. I looked at it. If you take away the first 5 misses, you were 17 of 20, and like you said, different shots seem like several. I mean, not settling for threes, not all of them drives, just a variety. So
Yep.
That's what you want, right?
That is exactly what we want. We got a new little toy that shows shot distribution and shot selection. It's not your standard old shot chart like I grew up with a pencil. It's close. It really breaks it down into all these areas, and our kids really devoured that through the first 4 games, and they talked about it during practice. Let's make sure we're getting the right people, the right shots in the right spot at the right time. And, you look through the shot distribution and, the way it turned out tonight, it was very, very balanced, very even. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in double figures again. And, that just is, to me, through this number of games, I think we've got 4 or 5 kids averaging double figures. That's really, really that makes us really proud.
Porter, go ahead.
Coach, I want to talk about Erin Barnum and just how her presence coming off the bench. She's just been solid every game coming off the bench and a career high tonight. So I just want to kind of touch on her and how big that's going to be coming in a key matchup Sunday.
Well, she gives us a spark immediately. Taylor gets out there and wears their big down, running, and then they're still in the game, and here comes Erin fresh. And she's got as quick a first step and as slow a second step as you've ever seen. That old man YMCA step through, get into your body, doesn't look like it's going in. That's really hard to defend. She's playing very confidently. Her teammates have a lot of confidence in her. She's really defending as well. Showed flashes of that in practice at times 2 years ago. We couldn't guard her during the year that she was up here and didn't play. And then last year, in practice and in a lot of games was a really a spark for us. But now she's steady. She's solid. She's got her academics in line. She's really got a good plan for things. And that's that maturity, And her teammates know, and her and Taylor have a really good tag team rapport about how they go about doing their business. And, I look up every night and we're getting, 19 and 10 out of those guys, or 19 and 16 or whatever that is. That's great production. And it'll be big because, Baylor's obviously got a lot of size. They will have 4 kids bigger than us in there. So we're going to need – it was good to get Macy and McGee and Oberg some minutes too. They all that rotation that Chantel and Pauline work with every day did a really good job tonight. You got a chance to see flash of how good of a passer Oberg is and what a problem McGee is down there on the block when she gets it with position.
Jason, go ahead.
Wondering about Jalen Mason and just kind of where she is right now, kind of trying to figure out the role that you have for her with this team and what you've seen from her these first 5 games.
She's in every one of our best lineups. If you chart our top 7 to 10 lineups, she's in every single one of them. She plays 3 positions. She knows exactly where to move the ball. If people charted hockey assists, she would lead the country. Sometimes it's just a cut. It's not even a pass. She keeps the ball moving. The ball does not stall. And she comes in for that first sub, and she plays one position, and then about 2 minutes later we get another sub. She slides to another one. Then we have a third sub, and she slides to a third position. So, that you couldn't just ask anybody to do that. You have to ask somebody that's been around, somebody that knows and has got the poise and the confidence to be able to do that. And she's going to make open shots. That's the problem. When people forget that what spot she's in, there she is to knock down a wide open 3. I think the ball will start to find her more as the year goes along because people will recognize that the other players are really scoring as a result of the actions that Jalen's creating. I think they'll stop. They'll start not coming off, and they'll make us throw it back to her. And I just put a lot of trust and a lot of faith in that kid because she knows this system as well as anybody we got.
Paul, go ahead.
Just moving on to Baylor, you talked about, their size, and they just put a lot of pressure on you in a lot of ways defensively. What sticks out to you about Baylor?
Well, just that if you're not committed to rebound, they're going to literally score every possession. I mean, their first shot is rarely their best shot. It's that second and the third and the fourth that end up being at 2 feet with Egbo and Alisa Smith and their guards driving in there. They're very, 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 very physical, very rugged. They will play inside of 10 feet if it's up to them. We've got to do a good job of stretching them a little bit. We've got to get every single loose ball. You don't knock off a team that's in the top 4 in the country without having some breaks go your way. So loose balls will be very, very important. They've got the National Defensive Player of the Year in Dee Richards playing. After a scary injury, it was good to see her back on the floor the other night. But she will be able to guard anybody that we put out there on the floor. She can guard 1 through 5 and do a great job of it. And that allows those other kids to come in and affect shots and rebound behind it and go. So, it'll be a combination of Maryland and Wake Forest type deal that we've seen. But again, the fact that we've played people like that gives me a little comfort that we won't be near as, maybe big-eyed as we were when we ran into Maryland down there a week ago. But, Baylor, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame program, the standard bearer, I think defending national champs is going to still stick with them because we didn't crown one last year. So that pretty much speaks for itself when it goes to that. And I agree with y'all. I think we would have had a great crowd. I think we'll fill this thing up to everybody that it'll reach its max, I think, come Sunday.
Porter, go ahead. Porter, you're muted, man.
You're muted, Porter. You're on mute. You win the prize.
Yep.
Porter wins the prize.
Sorry. I'll claim my prize tomorrow.
That's all right. It's a free oven mitt.
I was talking about how important is it going to be get those tweaks in that you need to keep from there being a slow start because, you play in Baylor. It's going to be hard to not be able to come off a 5-minute stretch or your first 5 shots and get behind early.
Yeah, and you combine that with I think we missed 9 of our first 10 the other night in here, and it just you do that and you're down 10-0, and that's almost an insurmountable lead against Baylor. They just don't give up leads like that. So we're going to keep working at it. I don't know what the answer is, and nobody does. I can't call Coach Blair or Vic or Kevin McGuff or these guys that I've worked for years and go, hey, what would y'all do the last time you had a pandemic when you couldn't do shoot-around? Other than Blair, and I don't think anybody remembers 1919, but he wasn't coaching yet, but he would probably have some memories of it. But I don't know. We're going to keep working at it. We're probably going to try to do some things in practice, come out of the locker room a little different. But I'll tell you the other thing you might do is we might not even talk about it. Might just even say, hey, you know what? Don't, because if you talk about it, you kind of make it a deal. Let's just not talk about it. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and get better at it, not necessarily change something. But yeah, imperative to get off to a great start. I think too, I think there will be a big enough crowd when we call the Hogs. You'll be able to hear the people, not the piped in music. You know, that buzz of a sound that we have in there is almost like my white noise sound when I sleep at night. You know, so it's got to – I'm going to see if we can change our piped-in sound to maybe some industrial sounds or banging on some pipes or airplanes landing or something. I don't know. But we've got to do something. Otherwise, you find yourself in a hole against an opponent. It'd be really hard to come back against.
Any other questions for Coach?
Yep, Jason.
Hey, Coach, just the opportunity that you have here. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a bigger non-conference game in this arena.
Yep.
The opportunity, you know, whatever happens, but the opportunity to showcase your program where it is right now on Sunday for a national audience.
And our kids were talking about it the other day. They were like, this is why we came here. You know, we came here to be able to attract a game like that. There wouldn't be when the SEC and the Big 12 were sitting around doing challenges for the last few years, they certainly weren't going to send Baylor here. And I think the kids understand they wear it as a kind of a little bit of badge of honor. And we're going to do our best to represent the SEC when it comes to that challenge. But, you know, for our fans, you know, I think a lot of people probably would have shied away from it and said, maybe give us somebody else. Don't give us them. But our fans deserve it. They've built this place into a true home court advantage for us. And we just felt like that it was too great of an opportunity to pass up. And I know our kids, all of our players that have come here, and you talk to Jalen and Grace and Macy that were here from the beginning, it's got a different feel about it. People have been talking about it around town. You hear about it on the radio, and we saw advertisements on TV. So I think for them to see that that's part of a very, very small reward, and for a thank you to our fans for doing what they've done in the past 3 years to allow us to play a game of that magnitude.
Porter, last one.
Just touching on that, you know, last year, you know, with the team being experienced this year, you know, you played your hard-fought games against Texas A&M, South Carolina. So I think, you know, how important is that, knowing that they have showed up in the big games, especially with their wins over Mississippi State and Texas A&M? How's that going to help come Sunday?
I think it just calms you. You know, you can draw back on past experience, and you're not – I mean, we don't have that David and Goliath talk. I'm not going to go in there with some – you know, speech that is not normal. I mean, it's just you go do what we do because we have been in those settings, in those environments. And that experience, them being able to say to the kids that don't have it, you know, some of these kids don't have it yet that we're counting on, they can say to them, hey, it's okay. We're prepared for this. Be ready to go when your number gets called. Them just being able to tell stories to each other the next 3 days. You know, they were already starting to talk about it tonight. I heard talk about it, you know, right as the game was the clock was going off. Like, hey, no celebrating, don't go out, wear your masks. You know, if you notice, we were socially distanced. We didn't go in at halftime. We're doing every single thing we can possibly do to avoid contact tracing so that we can play as many games as possible. And we sure want to make sure this one on Sunday goes on.